Third, Cavs are now favored to win it all, according to the Westgate Superbook. 9-4 favorites after the regular season ended. The Warriors are close second, 5-2. Defending champion Spurs, 4-1. The second seed Cavs face the Celtics in the first round, as you well know. But we're asking this question because now that they're favored to win it all, there has to be some sort of pressure on LeBron. Skip Bayless, how much pressure is on LeBron to win it all?
Stephen A. Smith, I believe LeBron has the most pressure on him right now of any player on the planet, in part because, as you always say, LeBron James is still the best player on the planet, and now he has, according to the odds makers, the best team on the planet. So I'm going to say the honeymoon is over. I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to give LeBron any passes, especially on this show. His team now should win it all. And, of course, about a year ago in the NBA Finals, his old team in Miami lost the NBA Finals in 5 games by a record margin to my San Antonio Spurs. And then, as we all know, LeBron went home. And now his new supporting cast, to me, is obviously much younger and much more explosive than his old supporting cast was with the Miami Heat. He is now joined by a Kyrie Irving, who obviously has 0 playoff experience. But I remind you, Stephen A. Smith, just last summer, Kyrie led Team USA to the FIBA World Championship. And in that tournament, Kyrie was voted MVP. This year, as you well know, during the regular season, Kyrie scored 57 points at San Antonio and 55 points against Portland. And speaking of the Western Conference and favorites, when LeBron was in the lineup this year, his Cavaliers were 17-7 versus the West. I repeat, 17-7. So I'm saying they should be the favorite. Because then David Griffin, as you well know, and you keep pointing out, and I'm going to give Dan Gilbert some credit here because I think he's kind of co-GM, they went out and they got for LeBron James Mozgov's shot blocking and J.R. Smith's three-point shooting and Shumpert's defense. And despite all his struggles, especially in fourth quarters, Kevin Love has still averaged this regular season 16 points and 10 rebounds. And I believe that LeBron James should be a candidate for Coach of the Year because I think he coached this team more effectively than David Blatt was able to. So, since January 15th, what team has the best winning percentage in all of basketball? The Cavaliers. 79% of their games they have won. Who has the best offense since January 15th? The Cavaliers. So, bottom line, best player on the planet should have the most pressure right now.
Let me pump the brakes for you just a little bit. You're not entirely wrong. Most of what you said is absolutely right. There is one exception. The one exception where the pressure on LeBron James diminishes significantly, Skip, is if they go against the San Antonio Spurs. If the San Antonio Spurs make the NBA Finals, you're talking about the greatest coach in the game, coupled with 3 dudes who have at least 4 rings, and a squad that is standing right now as the reigning defending NBA champions. Their experience, their cohesion, their ability to play together, them knowing what this moment requires and all that comes with it, usurps Kyrie Irving, usurps Kevin Love, usurps J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Timothy Mozgov, Tristan Thompson, all of those guys. The only person that has any kind of palpable experience to lean on that's comparable to the San Antonio Spurs is LeBron James. And you have openly chided him about it, accurately, I might add.
Thank you. How
he was on a Miami Heat squad that got ramrodded in the NBA Finals last year, that got outscored by a record 70 points in the NBA Finals. And it shows that one man can't beat an entire team. So my point to you is that considering that, everything you just said goes right out the window if it's against the San Antonio Spurs. But it definitely applies to everybody else. There is no one else. The Memphis Grizzlies, The Los Angeles Clippers, the Golden State Warriors, the Houston Rockets, even the Dallas Mavericks, even though they have Rick Carlisle and Tyson Chandler, who were both on the team when they won a championship back in 2010. The fact is, there is no one outside of San Antonio that gives you enough justification to lay off LeBron James in terms of the pressure. Considering what David Griffin did in terms of acquiring Mozgov with Shumpert and J.R. Smith to pair with Kyrie Irving, who, by the way, is shooting 41% from three-point range, by the way, and a Kevin Love, who you accurately pointed out is averaging 16 points and nearly 10 rebounds a game. There is nobody else to take that pressure off of LeBron James. If it's against anybody but San Antonio, you are absolutely right. The pressure is on his shoulders. We don't want to hear no nonsense about how it's going to take us a few years and there's no expectations for a championship. Oh, yes, the hell there is if it's against anybody else, but not against San Antonio.
By the way, it is difficult for me to win a debate with you when you use the word usurp 3 times in a row in your salvo against me. So it's just hard to debate that word. It's a little out of my league. Usurp. I don't think that word's ever been used on First Take before. Do you?
I don't know. Bayless, the English major, I'm sure you've used it before.
I think I have.
Once or twice.
It's been a long time ago back in my days at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
That's a whole other story.
Yes.
Mr. Smith, the dean of First Take. Sir, I remind you, in microcosm, not too long ago in San Antonio, as I pointed out in my opening salvo, Kyrie Irving, who's turned into he's like Aaron Rodgers bad at this point. Isn't he getting in that league of he is a bad man, is Kyrie Irving. He scored 57 points on one of the most astonishing shooting displays I have ever witnessed in a regular season game. The Spurs could not cope. They finally just shrugged and said, that's too good. Remember the shot that sent it into overtime? They got 2 guys falling all over each other and trying to fall all over Kyrie, and he still goes up from 3 and nails it to send it into overtime. Again, my Spurs had a 10-point lead with 3 minutes to go, but hey, who's counting?
Yes.
But it was a microcosm of what could happen if these teams do face off. And please, God, let us have this series. This is what I want to see. I've wanted it since November. I want to see my Spurs against LeBron's new team. It's another rematch, but it's got a whole different twist to it now. But I'm just telling you, I fear Kyrie. This is just me. I fear Kyrie even more than I fear LeBron. Because if we take that as a microcosm, that one game, and we spread it over 6 or 7, I think Kyrie is going to have his way. I'm not sure the Spurs have any answer for him because he's just a little too small and quick for Kawhi to guard. I just don't know.
Yes. Yeah. But the question is not whether or not Cleveland is going to beat San Antonio. We'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. The question is about the pressure that's appropriately placed on the shoulders of LeBron James. And I'm simply saying, even with Kyrie Irving doing what he did against San Antonio on March 12th, the reality is that Kyrie Irving hasn't played in a playoff game yet. This weekend will be his first ever playoff game. Right. The San Antonio Spurs are, 4- or 5-time champions when you go down their roster. You can't offset that. You can't just dismiss that. So because of it, going into a finals, not only that, but they played LeBron in the last 2 finals. Who's more qualified and equipped to coach against LeBron James, to come up with a game plan to help neutralize LeBron James than Greg Popovich? So you have to take those things into consideration as well, which is why I said the pressure won't be the same. Cleveland could beat them, but if they lost to San Antonio, nobody would be surprised. And nobody's going to look at LeBron James and say, oh, man, you didn't get it done, because we understand who he's going against. But if you go against a Steph Curry, who's never played in an NBA Finals, if you go against a James Harden, who played in 1 NBA Finals, and we saw how that panned out, if you go up against the Chris Pauls and Blake Griffins of the world, who've never played in an NBA Finals, a Damian Lillard and LaMarcus Aldridge in Portland, okay? You go against these cats. Memphis with Zach, with Zebo and Marc Gasol and those boys who haven't been in an NBA Finals. You go up against these guys and you're LeBron James, the expectation is going to be you're supposed to find a way to win this. Nobody is going to say that for him against San Antonio.
Okay, but the odds makers have spoken. The odds makers out of Las Vegas, where we will be in about
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
But you're missing the reason why.
They have the Cavs as the favorite to win the title, to win the championship. To understand, you cannot start building in new excuses or passes for LeBron James.
No,
down the
you're
line.
wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. Here's why. The odds makers also have the Warriors against the Spurs. So what does that mean, Skip? They're assuming that the road through the Eastern Conference is going to be relatively easier for the Cavaliers. And in the West, the Spurs are going to run into the Warriors. And they're basically saying the Warriors are going to beat the Spurs. So the Cavs would play the Warriors. That's why the Cavs are the favorite. If you had the Spurs knocking off the Warriors, then it wouldn't be that way. Because they're in the West, they're going to run into the Warriors. Vegas is assuming that the Warriors are going to meet the Cavs. And if they do, you're right. Like I said, the Cavs should be favored and the pressure is on LeBron. But if they thought the Spurs were going to be in the finals, that would not be the case.
Vegas, on this point, is not assuming. It is accepting my Spurs have fallen to the 6th seed. My Spurs, to get to the Cavaliers, if the Cavaliers get to the finals, of course, would have to win 3 road series, probably, depending on if there's a big upset, but probably 3 road series to get to the Cavaliers. And then what would be left of my old, slow Spurs? That's what Vegas is saying, that LeBron should have an advantage by then, because to get there, who knows, my Spurs may have to win 3 road game 7s to get to the finals. What will they have left?
Vegas is not saying what you're saying. Vegas is saying what I'm saying. The Cavs will get to the NBA Finals, you know, and the Warriors will probably beat the Spurs and deny the Spurs the opportunity to get to the finals. Because if San Antonio were to get to the finals, I think half the world would pick San Antonio to beat the Cavs. But they would pick the Cavs to beat the Warriors.
Okay, so the odds are heavily weighted in the favor of the Golden State Warriors playing the Cavaliers. So if it comes to that, if the chalk prevails and it's Golden State versus Cleveland, although Atlanta deserves some respect here. But in the conversation, just because they won the most games. But still,
yes.
If the odds makers are correct and it's Cleveland versus Golden State, who you got then? I think you got the Cavaliers.
I do.
Okay, so right now.
Well, that's what I've been saying.
Okay. So why are we even bringing up San Antonio? Because you're telling me the odds makers have already spoken on that. There's no way San Antonio's going to get to the finals. You're doing an if and or but that's way out there.
What I'm saying to you, Skip, it's never way out there when it comes to San Antonio. I can't believe you, of all people, is somebody I have to tell this to.
You finally
can
learned
never
your
say
lesson.
It's way out there for the San Antonio Spurs.
Year after year after year,
they taught you. He just wanted you to say that.
The Spurs have taught you everything you didn't know about NBA basketball.
Oh,
thank you very much.
My. All right, gentlemen.
Well,
you're
I'm not insulted by that. It is Greg Popovich who's the best. Right. And by the way, San Antonio, I haven't been right when I picked against them yet.
Third, Cavs are now favored to win it all, according to the Westgate Superbook. 9-4 favorites after the regular season ended. The Warriors are close second, 5-2, defending champion Spurs 4-1. The second seed Cavs face the Celtics in the first round, as you well know. But we're asking this question because now that they are all their favorites to win it all, there has to be some sort of pressure.
Games by a record margin to my San Antonio Spurs. And then, as we all know, LeBron went home. And now his new supporting cast, to me, is obviously much younger and much more explosive than his old supporting cast was with the Miami Heat. He is now joined by a Kyrie Irving, who obviously has the best team on the planet. So I'm going to say the honeymoon is over. I don't want to hear any excuses. I don't want to give LeBron any passes, especially on this show. His team now should win it all. And, of course, about a year ago in the NBA Finals, his old team in Miami lost the NBA Finals in 5-game playoff experience. But I remind you, Stephen A. Smith, just last summer, Kyrie led Team USA to the FIBA World Championship. And in that tournament, Kyrie was voted MVP. This year, as you well know, during the regular season, Kyrie scored 57 points at San Antonio and 55 points against Portland.
Sure, on LeBron. Skip Bayless, how much pressure is on LeBron to win it all?
Stephen A. Smith, I believe LeBron has the most pressure on him right now of any player on the planet. In part because, as you always say, LeBron James is still the best player on the planet. And now he has, according to the odds makers,